Hello and welcome to the TruGolf Academy. You've joined me, Jon Watts, and I'm at Drayton Park Golf Club. And today the topic I want to discuss is the high to low pitch shot. So we've just finished Ryder Cup week. Unfortunately, the Americans just pipped us. They were much better really on the greens. But what you'll have seen is the control on pitch shots from the guys. A lot of them were hitting some low flighted pitch shots that sort of checked up on that second or third bounce. I just want to talk you through the differences in setup and swing between hitting the high one and hitting the low one and when we would do it. So the first thing is I've got a 50-yard shot here. I have actually got the pin on the front, so it's the red flag. We have red at the front, yellow at the middle, white at the back. So we've got a forward pin position. With the upslope short of the green, I wouldn't really want to land this into that upslope because I'm not sure how it's going to react. So on a forward pin position where I need to stop the ball a bit quicker, I definitely would hit the higher flighted one. Whereas if the pin was more at the back of the green, I could hit the lower flighting one, landing more front to middle of the green and let that ball release, have that couple of bounces before it grabs, before that spin really takes effect. Now, a lot of people are thinking when they're hitting the low flighted one that they're producing more spin. It's actually that it takes longer to apply the spin, so there's less of a pitch mark because the ball's coming in at a shallower angle, so it has those couple of forward skips before the backspin really takes effect. Whereas when you hit the ball from more height, you create a bigger pitch mark, there's more energy absorbed, there's less forward movement, so actually the spin rate would have been very similar. It's just the trajectory. So on the lower flighted one, less pitch mark, the ball will skip on a couple of times before that spin takes effect. Whereas the higher flighted one, it's actually going to come down and settle much quicker, larger pitch mark, more energy absorbed straight away, so less forward movement. So it's not that actually the lower flighted one is spinning anymore. It just looks a little that way when you see it on telly because it takes longer to apply the spin, less energy absorbed, as I said, by that pitch mark. But what I'm going to hit here, as I said, is a high and a low one, so you can see the method, the setup, the technique. As I said, I would vary it depending on where the pin is, so whether it's at the front or whether it's at the back. I'd also start to think about the turf conditions. So we're just into October here. We've got nice lush fairways, good green grass on there, but it's quite soft underfoot. It's not really wet, but it's quite lush, it's quite soft underfoot. This is actually going to work better for me using the loft, using the bounce of the golf club, going for the higher flighted one because there's a shallower divot. If there was hard ground conditions, if I actually went a few yards further back, because there's a slight ridge there, there's some slightly drier ground of harder, drier land lies, I may be driving in that low one, trying to get that ball before the turf, because I don't want to hit too far behind and get that club bouncing too much where I might catch it a little bit thin. But in lush ground conditions like this, I would tend to go for the higher flighted one because we're using the loft, we're using the bounce. Now to hit that high flighted one, and I've done a couple of videos on this, and I'll put some links to it in this video, it's really a case of trying to allow that club to pass your hands, so we're not going in with a lot of shaft lean here with my hands forwards. I'm trying to get the feeling that I've got that L shape on the way back and the reverse L shape on the way through. So I'm allowing the club to catch up and pass my hands. Okay, so it will be a much higher club finish position here, and you'll see a very shallow divot or a scraping of the turf where I'm really using that loft and using the bounce and trying to hit in the high one. So let me do that. You'll see it from both angles, from downline and face on. As I said, I've got a 50-yard shot here, and we're just going to go for the high one first. So ball in the center of my heels. And let that club finish nice and high. It was a little bit out the bottom of the club, but it was fine. You can see that nice high finish position there. Hardly disturbed the turf. Let me try one more. Let's strike this one a little bit better. Okay, one more high flighted pitch shot. That was better. That's straight on it. Oh, I'm pretty close. And again, just a very shallow scraping of the turf. Hardly disturbed it there. Really using the loft, really using the bounce from both angles. What you've seen is this very high club finish position. I'm definitely getting that feeling the club is starting to pass my hands. It's a feeling rather than reality. At impact, my hands and club are pretty much level if I manage to maintain loft and bounce. But I'm getting that feeling almost that I'm getting the club passing my hands. To hit the low flighted one, and as you saw a bit of this at Hazeltine, and you definitely see it with players like Henrik Stenson, who's a little bit steeper, tends to drive them in quite low and get them really checking up. But you saw it from quite a few of the players, depending on where the pin was on the green or how much spin they wanted to apply. Now, when we're trying to do that, we can just move that ball a little bit back in our stance. That means I'm going to be hitting it a little bit more on the downward blow. I am going to be de-lofting that, but that's what's going to give us this lower ball flight. And what we want to make sure, as well as moving that ball a touch back, my sternum is slightly ahead of the ball to start with, and I'm going to finish with more of a curtailed follow through. So you'll actually see the club is much lower. I'm going to try and get that feeling that I don't let the club pass my hands, that I'm keeping my hands quite high. So it's going to be a very curtailed finish position, something more along those lines, rather than here where I'm using the loft and using the bounce. This, as I said, would work better really if this was a further back pin position, but let's give it a go. You should see this land in a similar position but skip on a little bit, maybe just past that pin. So I'm going to move that ball just a touch further back, that's it there, in curtailed finish position. That's a little short, that. Landed into that upslope I talked about. So you can actually see divot there, so definitely going more of a downward blow into the back of the golf ball. Let's try one more. That just needs to land that little bit further. Let's try one more and drive it in low. That was a better strike. You can see a much lower finish position. The green's soft enough actually. That one still stopped pretty quickly, but a much lower trajectory, more of a divot, a much lower finish position, and we can really get that ball driving on. Of course, if you've got a variety of wedges, you can vary the loft you've got as well. You just need to know that when you're going down in loft, we're going lower in launch, but also lower in the amount of spin we generate. So if we want something where it's going to go low and really check up quite quickly, use your higher lofted club, but try and finish with that sawn off finish position rather than allowing the club to pass your hands. I hope that's helped. Give it a go on the practice area. Give it a go on the driving range. Try and vary the trajectory of those 50-yard shots before taking it to the golf course. Let me know how you get on if you post some comments below. And do follow us on all our other social media. All the details for all our platforms are coming along the bottom of the screen right now. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.